Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Listen Up Girl podcast. Before I start today's episode, I wanted to ask you to please go to the description of this podcast and click on the audience survey link. Taking this survey only takes 10 minutes, and it really helps me understand who my audience is and you're looking for from this show, Listen Up Girl, and my other podcast, Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay. I have a bunch of ideas, but before I start executing them, I want to just take 10 minutes of your time to understand what you think is working. So let's get right into it. This is your go-to for LGBTQ news, politics, culture, and stories affecting our community every single day. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman, and today, on Monday, November 17th, we've got a packed rundown from Pete Buttigieg throwing political punches in Wisconsin to Utah's oldest gay bar shutting its doors to a $2 billion government rebrand that nobody asked for. So let's get into the headlines. First, Pete Buttigieg heads to Wisconsin. Former Transportation Secretary is heading to Wisconsin, and the political tension is already boiling. He'll be campaigning against far-right Congressman Darren Van Orden, and the two have been trading jabs across social media like it's a political drag race. Buttigieg is hosting a town hall in La Crosse, part of Wisconsin's 3rd congressional district, where Van Orden is running for re-election. With national attention on the race and Democrats hoping to flip the seat, expect this showdown to heat up fast. Next, we go to Utah's oldest gay bar remains closed. In Salt Lake City, the SunTrapp, the state's oldest gay bar, remains closed as a labor battle intensifies. Employees have been pushing to unionize, while owner Mary Peterson has resisted, leading to walkouts, accusations, and a complete shutdown of the beloved queer space. Both sides say they're hoping to find a path forward, but so far, the iconic bar remains locked up. For many in Utah's LGBTQ+ community, the closure feels like a loss of a sanctuary. I hope they are able to work it out. Next, Trump's $2 billion push to rename the Pentagon. 6 sources tell NBC News that Trump's administration insistence on renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War could cost taxpayers up to $2 billion. Billion with a B. Congress hasn't approved the name change, but after Trump signed an executive order, the Pentagon immediately updated its website, social handles, and even signage. Outside of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth's office, a new plaque already reads, "The Office of Secretary of War." Experts say the move is symbolic and wildly expensive during a time of global instability. Why we wouldn't take that $2 billion and put it towards all the other issues from the government shutdown is beyond me, but I'm not running the government. Next is cuts to foreign aid linked to mass deaths. Former USAID director is sounding the alarm, calling recent cuts to global humanitarian funding a public man-made death. He points out nearly 200,000 adult deaths and over 400,000 child deaths tied to U.S. slashing HIV/AIDS medication programs. Many LGBTQ+ focused health programs abroad have been hit hardest, especially in regions where queer people rely on U.S.-funded clinics for life-saving care. Next, HRC quietly drops Northrop, Grumman, and Raytheon. After years of pressure from activists, the HRC has confirmed that the defensive giants are no longer donors. The organization didn't disclose when or why the sponsorships ended, but the move comes after sustained criticism over the ethics of LGBTQ+ advocacy groups accepting money from weapons manufacturers. For critics, the change is long overdue. Next story is Commonwealth Games reject blanket trans ban. The Commonwealth Games Federation has announced it will not impose a universal ban on transgender athletes ahead of next year's events in Glasgow. Instead, each sport will continue choosing its own eligibility rules, a sharp contrast to the International Olympic Committee, which is considering much stricter global standards. For advocates, the decision represents a meaningful move towards inclusion at a time when trans athletes face targeted attacks worldwide. Next, Rainbow Railroad faces massive demand. This is unbelievable that every 26 minutes, Rainbow Railroad, the Canadian nonprofit helping LGBTQ plus people escape persecution, receives a request for help. Over 90% of those requests come from queer people desperate to relocate to Canada. With global anti-LGBTQ plus hostility rising, the organization says demand is at its highest point ever. This story reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale because a lot of people try to escape to go to Canada. So let's hope we don't get there. And next story is new toolkit to navigate gender-affirming care in England. UK health provider Anne has launched a groundbreaking Accessing Gender-Affirming Care toolkit designed to help trans adults navigate both NHS and private care systems. The toolkit includes step-by-step pathways for transition-related care, legal protections, guidance for people who self-medicate, resources for moving between private and NHS and routes, an extensive directory of trans-affirming providers. Co-founder Lizzie Jordan said, "The reality is Anne shouldn't need to exist, but while barriers persist, we're committed to equipping our community with every resource they need." And just for those not in England, Anne is a nonprofit organization. Check them out. And our last story is support for marriage equality drops. A new Economist YouGov poll shows support for same-sex marriage has declined for the first time in years. Only 54% of Americans now say marriage equality should remain legal, down sharply from 70% in 2021. The drop coincides with escalating political rhetoric around revisiting Obergefell and increasing attacks on LGBTQ plus rights nationwide. Advocates warn these numbers should be a wake-up call. I think the last election that we just had was a big wake-up call to a lot of people. So hopefully we will see that continue in midterms next year in November of 2026. And that's today's rundown on the Listen Up Girl podcast. Remember, staying informed is an act of resistance, and your voice matters more than ever. If you loved today's episode, make sure to like, follow, and share, and check back tomorrow for more LGBTQ plus news that you need to know. Until next time, I'm Zach Randles-Friedman. Stay loud, stay proud, and stay safe. Thanks for listening.